Welcome back to the Manage to Win podcast. I'm your host, David Russell. Today's episode is sponsored by Habitly.com. Do you find in your organization that some people really strive for excellence, but others kind of do whatever, just kind of okay? Don't dot all the I's, cross all the T's, catch all the detail type of thing. If you want to get people more on the same page for excellence, we have a training in Habitly called Ownership Culture. Very powerful, great tool to have discussion about how do we take this to the next level. Encourage you to check it out, Habitly.com, first 7 days free. Can't go wrong. Today's episode is with James Malley. Now, he is the CEO and co-founder at Paccurate. What is Paccurate? Paccurate is an expert in cartonization. Now you're like, what's that? Well, he's got some really cool things to say about his business and also what they're doing to make the world a better place. Let's dive in so you can learn more. James, welcome to the show. You have a unique topic for us. So let's dive in. Give the audience a little bit about your background.
Hey, David.
I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me. I'm an expert in cartonization. And I can say that because cartonization, as you can imagine, many of your listeners have probably never heard of it. It's easier to be an expert in an extremely niche field. But my background is in supply chain technology. Been working in the space since 2008. My now co-founder and I worked as kind of freelancers. So we would go into warehouses where e-commerce shipping happens and manage little technology projects like connecting warehouse software with shipping software, stuff like that. Around 2018, we saw an opportunity to make parcel shipping more efficient. It's kind of an underserved part of supply chain. And so we built a solution and got some customers, and we're still going strong.
It's funny because that word cartonization, it sounds like something I'd tell my kids, say that fast 3 times. This is of interest to me because, I really believe we have to be good stewards of the earth, but also, I'm like everybody else, I'm ordering things online, and sometimes I get these boxes that are enormous for this little thing. So how are you working to solve that?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we try to prevent happening. Usually it's a mistake, but sometimes it's actually just the result of progress, technological progress in these warehouses where they've got robot arms swinging around and all kinds of autonomous machines taking care of fulfillment. Sometimes the underlying plumbing where a human would be able to say, oh, that doesn't look right, doesn't get caught. So if you buy something from a super advanced retailer without naming any names, and it looks like that, there's a chance that they kind of rushed ahead to automate the machinery in the warehouse without actually, paying close attention to the foundation.
Well, I think that brings up an interesting thing for the audience and for myself. I always picture that someone's putting it in the box. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, like when I'm buying from Amazon, and I'm not promoting Amazon, although we all, or most of us, buy from Amazon. Are you saying that these things are being put in boxes by robots? What percentage of the time?
Robotically driven fulfillment, if it's extremely automated, that's the exception. But so it's normally human driven. They may have some instruction on the screen about what box to use or how much filler material to put in. But humans are really bad at conceptualizing 3-dimensional space. So even if they think they did a good packing job, the numbers usually say otherwise. Not to mention, the folks that work in the warehouses, they have a very difficult job, and they have somebody looking over their shoulder, literally, saying, this needs to get out the door. All these orders need to get out the door as fast as possible. So under those conditions, it's tough. It's tough for humans to get it right.
Wow. And And, another question I have for you that may be off topic, but I don't like styrofoam because it seems like it lasts forever in the environment. Do you guys take a position on styrofoam, good or bad, or anything like that?
Well, styrofoam is pretty bad because we can't really recycle it in most places, if at all. Plastic is not great for obvious reasons, although there are recycling options available. The kind of the bad news is that paper, while it's greener, is not carbon neutral by any means. In fact, it's not that far behind plastic when it comes to packaging materials. I think the ratio is 1 ton of cardboard that's used for these boxes. The production creates 3 tons of CO2 equivalent. So, I know when I see something come in paper with paper fill, keeping it safe, I feel a little bit better. But I think it's important that we be mindful about the fact that it's not without cost to the environment.
Is there a solution there that's, something's definitely better for the environment? I'm not hearing one.
Yeah. There's not a lot. I mean, there's some interesting innovations in packaging going on right now. Unfortunately, material science is kind of slower. There's only so many things you can use to prevent damages, keep things safe on their journey through the transport network. Sealed Air has those pillows, which supposedly the new ones are biodegradable, but everything has trade-offs. So there is no perfect environmentally super friendly way to ship.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, as individual businesses that don't ship a lot, I mean, is there anything that we should keep in mind as far as optimizing our shipping cost and the way we're packaging things?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a high shipping volume and you don't have that person looking over your shoulder telling you to get this thing out the door as fast as possible, is to just be mindful. I mean, a lot of this at the low volumes is just about a mindfulness thing where you recognize that what you're shipping has a cost. It has to be shipped, but it has a cost to it. So how can I ensure that I've chosen the smallest box or boxes and with the least amount of material inside? That's really all you can do. There are also green-centric third-party logistics companies. So if you're a smaller shipper, you can explore a relationship with one of these where they offset things, which has a debatable impact in real life, but they'll make sure that they're always using the greenest materials available.
And was there a change years ago, like in the last 10 years or something like that, with like the U.S. Post Office and also UPS, where they started to pay more attention to the dimensions of boxes versus just the weight?
Yes. And so dimensional rating has existed in other kind of modes for a long time. LTL, air freight, all these things. Around 2018, I believe, is when FedEx and UPS started charging these dimensional weight fees. And so they still charge based on weight, but they have like a special way of incorporating the size of the box. And the effect is they penalize less optimized shipments. And that was kind of we knew it was coming, but when it finally happened, a lot of shippers were a little bit startled that, they had been shipping tiny things in larger boxes just to keep up with demand. And we're suddenly, wait a second, my profit, my margins are way smaller than they used to be. So this is still, kind of a recent pain point.
So what's your business as far as how you're growing? Who are you working with? Who are you serving? Because it's definitely a niche.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's not like there's a huge amount of competition probably, but you still have to offer a unique value. So how are you going after this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Believe it or not, cartonization, while it's not a word in the dictionary, is not a new concept. It's been around, decades at this point. It's basically the process of finding the right box or boxes for any given shipment. Usually it's kind of an afterthought kind of feature in warehouse management software. There's been some kind of old school legacy vendors as well. Where we saw the opportunity is none of the solutions were incorporating transportation cost into the packing decision. And so, our algorithms, which mostly e-commerce retailers call from their warehouse when they're getting ready to ship, and we generate a packing instruction with a picture and send it back to them. We're able to not just make sure the boxes are smaller, but make sure that they're packed in such a way that it's optimized for the exact journey that shipment will take. So I'll give you an example. If you're shipping something, a zip code over, it's probably not going to be on a plane. Probably go to a local FedEx hub and then go out for delivery. The carriers kind of with the way they structure their rates, they incentivize, in that case, fewer boxes, even if there's a little bit of extra air in there. They want to cut down on idle time. They want to make it easier for the delivery person to handle. So Paccurate packs those things in that way. If you're shipping something next day air or really far away where suddenly capacity constraints across the whole network are a factor, the carriers incentivize splitting out the shipment, if it's a multi-item shipment, into multiple boxes just to get the extra cubic inch of air out of there. So that may be a little bit inside baseball, but that's really the opportunity we saw. And lately have been kind of building a platform around it so shippers can do other things like simulate months of shipments so that they can figure out exactly what carton sizes to use, other kinds of modeling projects, things like that.
So you say that they come to you and then you tell them how to pack it. You're saying that I assume that all happens in the app. So they've got some call to the app. And then does that also work with multiple products in one box?
Absolutely. Yep. And it's an API. So our solution exists in the cloud. That's also kind of the opportunity we saw because a lot of the prior solutions are kind of tenant-based or sitting on a dusty server in the corner of the warehouse somewhere. So being cloud native, they can just have from their packing station where, Dave the packer is standing, he'll scan the order number. He's got a bunch of these items that he's about to ship. It quickly makes a call to our servers. And in milliseconds, we send back that packing instruction, and then he follows it and packs it all in and ships it out.
So speaking as an entrepreneur, you're going after this market. You see there's an opportunity, but how are you doing that? So you've made the product. It sounds like you got an API that people can tap into, but are you going just after big shippers? Are you going after big companies that are shipping? Are you going after the shippers themselves, like FedEx, UPS, DHL, whomever? Or are you actually going after businesses below that, individual businesses?
We have been targeting mostly e-commerce retailers. They're the ones that feel the pain most acutely. Although, the carriers like the FedExes and the UPSs of the world, they send us referrals pretty regularly because it turns out it's not like a zero-sum game. Like if we save the retailer some money, the carrier is going to lose a little bit on that shipment. But the net effect is it's less taxing on the carrier's transport network. So it's kind of it's definitely niche, but it's a special kind of problem because it has all these interesting ripple effects on the network and sustainability issues as well.
So what type of sales team do you have going after that? And what's the sales cycle? I'm a biz dev guy, so I'm kind of curious,
Sure.
how this all comes together because you've got the concept, you've got proof of concept, but then how do you really grow this so you're maximizing, the number of companies that you're supporting?
Yeah. So we kind of made the decision early on that we wanted to make it available to companies of any size because the larger end customers, we're able to demonstrate savings and, emissions reduction and all these things. But the smaller you are, the more kind of relative opportunity there is to save money in this way. And it's become really important as the carriers keep jacking their rates up seemingly constantly to explore things like this as a smaller shipper where you can't afford to lose the margin you already have. So we actually make our API available for people to just try out. So that's resulted in almost half our customers we've never spoken to. They just go in, sign up for an API key, and they plug it in and go. And then in terms of medium and larger customers, we do have the small sales team. We're generally kind of all experts in fulfillment. We have to have a very thorough understanding of the WMS systems that are out there, what warehouse processes are kind of adjacent to packing, so that we can kind of contextualize it for larger customers that are looking to tackle this stuff.
So as an entrepreneur, what are like, and of course you may not be able to speak if it's confidential, but what are like the biggest 3 challenges you've got right now that you've now established a beachhead, probably gaining awareness along with customers and growing? What are things that are your 3 biggest challenges, maybe in order of priority or severity, that you're facing now to get the company to the next level? Because didn't you mention you raised like a Series A or something like that?
We raised a seed round earlier this year.
Seed round, okay.
Yeah, I would say in terms of biggest challenge, my co-founder, Pat Powers, is a brilliant engineer. He's the one who really architected the whole platform. And I like to think I helped. But we were so close to the technology for so long that learning how to talk about it in a way that was, first of all, comprehensible to our market, but also compelling, has always been a challenge and something that we work at really hard every day. So that's probably number one, is how do you bring this thing where it's not just a niche, it's kind of a niche within a niche, and explaining how this one thing, it's not just like one of the 100 fires you should be putting out every week as a retailer. It's a foundational element upon which your whole operation kind of rests. So we've been getting better at that, but that, as we continue to roll out the platform, there's new kind of messaging challenges and communication challenges there.
So pausing there for a moment.
Yeah.
So what is your messaging today?
Today, it depends who we're talking to, but our mission is to reduce waste in the supply chain. And we say this is how we do it. We tell you exactly which cartons you should use and give you unprecedented control over how they're packed. And usually that's enough at this point. It's really when you get into the weeds that things get a little complicated.
And what type of savings are available when they do this?
It depends. I mean, at the smaller shippers, it can be as much as 20%. And usually just finding counterintuitive ways of packing that they may not have considered. At the high end, if a company like Crate and Barrel is one of our customers, and companies like that, if they're coming from a prior solution, generally we're able to find 6% savings on transportation, which for large companies is often millions of dollars, and more on other areas of the business like material costs, labor costs, all these things. So it's pretty big opportunity for something that's kind of just plugged in there for use.
Yeah. And I'm curious because I'm all about people. So have you noticed any difference in the people that are actually doing the packing? Does this lower the stress level for them at all? Or have you not noticed any difference? Or you just don't track it or something like that?
We haven't heard any negative feedback from the packers. Like I said, it's kind of a high pressure, even if you've been doing it for years and you know the ropes, it can be kind of a high pressure job. So we have gotten we've gotten actually quite a bit of positive feedback where they don't have to, there are cases where an operator would have to pack an order up and then rate it and then realize they have to unpack the whole thing because it needs to go a different mode because this thing's too expensive. So all that stuff that used to be annoying is now no longer the case because we know immediately really how these things should be packed. So I like to hear that, and I hope that we continue to hear that from the actual users of the endpoint.
Yeah, I would think it's more than annoying. I would think it's incredibly stressful, particularly when you got someone looking over your shoulder, saying "Andale, let's move. Come on, we gotta drive this thing." And you're like, "Oh, sorry, gotta repack this." So that's not good. Okay, so number one challenge right now is really how you're helping people understand what you're doing in an efficient, effective manner that connects with them. So they're interested in learning more or giving it a try. So what's the number two challenge you got?
Well, just one more thing on the communication thing.
Sure.
Just a kind of like really simple example is, every time we talk to usually a medium or a larger size retailer, we'll do an analysis and they'll give us a month or 3 months worth of shipping data. And we run it through the system so we can simulate every shipment and show them how Paccurate would have done it. And so, when we started doing these things, we would just throw a big spreadsheet at them and they'd be like, oh yeah, like 1 million cubic inches of cardboard saved if you were to do this, that, and the other thing. Today, we, have a much nicer presentation. We put it into terms that are easy to understand. So we'll say, this will save you 160 acres of cardboard this year. And, this many trailers lined end to end could reach. So, it's not just the marketing messaging. It's almost just like really pulling the insights out of the data we're able to generate so that it means something to other people. That's kind of the.
I'm really glad you brought that up, and I want to emphasize that to the audience. Think about the way James and the team there has made it a visual and a numeric, for your numbers people that are numbers crunching, you're going to make a decision. That's really where you need to go when you're selling. Okay. It's help them understand this is where you are today, but this is where you could be using us. And you guys have done an incredible job. I can't even imagine how you figure that out. This is how your company would do it differently and able to run some numbers or saving or whatever. But I think that's phenomenal. So, that makes it so easy for someone to say, oh, either this is going to make a big difference or it's not, type of thing, which I can't imagine if you're going to somebody that doesn't have this type of solution. It's like always going to show some improvement, isn't it?
It should. The other thing is we're usually dealing with stakeholders that themselves are very passionate about solving this problem because they are there seeing the waste. Often these are folks who care deeply about sustainability. So it's not just about communicating to them, it's about empowering them to sell this internally. So that way we don't have to sell it over and over again. If we can convert, our champion to understand exactly what we're doing, it's a big advantage.
Great point. Fantastic. Okay. So what's number two?
Number two, well, we raised a seed round this year. We had 4 people last year, and it was just my co-founder and I before that. So growing a venture backed startup is an interesting challenge. And now we're at 9 full-time folks, mostly engineers. So navigating team growth without losing that kind of core purpose, even really needing to strengthen that purpose as you go, has been a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge.
That's great. Good. Yeah. And of course, retaining people. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel by refilling a position. So it sounds like you're enjoying it and keeping people engaged. So congrats on that.
Thanks. It's definitely more fun. I've worked on some other things that it's not something I would write in my diary about at home or get excited to do. It's just I'm trying to get paid. But we're really lucky in that, all the savings that we generate from this, there's a very tight relationship between that and the Scope 3 emissions reduction that we do. And just because of the economies of scale in parcel shipping, I mean, FedEx and UPS ship a combined 41 million packages per day around the world.
Whoa.
So even if we're just doing these little tactical things, a square foot of cardboard saved on every carton, that adds up to, staggering numbers. And so having a mission that you can believe in, that you can back up with numbers and technology, it's made getting everybody aligned behind that. We actually feel like we're doing something that matters. It's not just, we're not just out to make a buck. This is, part of our professional legacies, really. If we can make a difference and reduce some of the waste in supply chain.
Fantastic. I'm actually hesitant to ask you what's number 3 because that was so powerful. So I think that's great.
Good, because I don't have another one.
Oh, good. There we go. Well, look, I think on that note, really the way you're connecting people with meaningful work, the job you're doing in presenting people your solution in a way that not only connects with them, but as you mentioned, gives them the tools they need to sell it up the chain of command. So these people that share your passion for sustainability can also get the buy-in they need from the upper people for a test or a pilot or rolling it out, whatever it might be. My congratulations on the success you're having. So, James, if people want to learn more about what you're doing, where should they go?
You can find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, or visit our website at Paccurate.io. It's like the word accurate with a P in front of it. And our API is open. So if there's any technical folks with an interesting idea, you can go in there and use the API for free. All our documentation is public as well. We've had some people build some pretty cool stuff like greenhouse, vertical farm plans and stuff. It's pretty cool. So for the technical folks listening, give it a whirl because it's pretty fun to work with.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure the audience benefited from it also.
Thanks so much, David.
Thanks for tuning in today. If you liked the episode with James, please subscribe, leave us a comment or a rating. Love to hear from you. And remember our sponsor, Habitly.com, where you can learn the habits of highly successful people for pennies, quite frankly. Check it out, Habitly.com. First 7 days free. You can't go wrong. And stay tuned. We've got more great guests coming. Bye for now.